The harder you try to convince someone to do something, the more they're going to resist. It's like pushing against a spring. Apply more force, and you're just going to feel stronger pushback. That's why traditional persuasion methods fail about 80% of the time. You make your best argument, you lay out a perfectly logical plan, but somehow end up further from agreement than when you started. However, Machiavelli discovered something fascinating centuries ago. When people believe an idea is their own, they become its strongest advocate. This reverse persuasion technique is how skilled negotiators still get what they want while making others feel like they've won. Today, I'm going to share 3 ways to apply reverse persuasion that will absolutely improve your odds of getting exactly what you want. But to fully use these strategies, you need to know what reverse persuasion is. Reverse persuasion is the opposite of traditional influence tactics. Instead of directly pushing your ideas onto someone, you strategically lead them to discover their own conclusions. And by the way, which happens to be exactly what you wanted all along. Think of it as planting seeds rather than transplanting fully grown ideas. Your goal isn't to win an argument, it's to never have an argument in the first place. This approach recognizes a fundamental truth about human psychology. We all have a natural desire for autonomy. Our egos demand that we maintain control over our decisions and our actions. And when this autonomy feels threatened, we instinctively resist, regardless of how logical or beneficial the suggestion might actually be. Machiavelli understood this centuries before modern psychology confirmed it. In his writings, he observed that successful rulers didn't simply command. They made their subjects believe that certain ideas and actions were their own choice. Let me be clear. Using reverse persuasion is not the same thing as manipulation. You're collaborating in a way that respects the other person's need for control. You're creating a path of least resistance towards mutual benefit. And today, I'm going to reveal 3 strategies that master persuaders use to get exactly what they want without resistance. Each strategy builds on the last one, creating this influence system so subtle that most people never realize it's happening. And the 3rd strategy is unusually powerful and something you've likely experienced even without knowing it. When you make a statement, you create an opportunity for disagreement. But when you ask a thoughtful question, you invite collaboration. Let me give you an example. Instead of saying, we should try this new approach, ask, what do you think would happen if we tried this new approach? Did you notice the difference? The difference might be a little subtle, but the impact is profound. Strategic questions activate the problem-solving parts of our brains rather than triggering defensive reactions. They create a psychological shift from resistance to engagement. The key is to frame questions that naturally guide the person towards your desired outcome without being manipulative. So questions like, what would you do in my position? Or how do you think we could solve this while addressing your own concerns? Invite the person to step into a solution-oriented mindset. Remember, your goal isn't to trick someone. It's to remove the barriers that prevent them from seeing the benefits to your position. And while questions help engage someone's problem-solving abilities, sometimes you need to provide a bit more structure. And this is where applying strategy number 2 is crucial. When you present someone with a carefully thought out set of choices, you're doing 2 powerful things simultaneously, giving them the autonomy that they crave while limiting the decisions to outcomes that you're going to be happy with. I still remember the example my mom used on me when I was little. I had a bad habit of fussing every day when I had to put my shoes on for school. So instead of arguing, pleading, bribing, or guilt tripping me into putting my shoes on, one day she started asking me, do you want to put your shoes on before or after breakfast? Notice that not wearing shoes isn't an option. Yet, I have to be honest, I felt empowered because I was making a choice. And believe me, the strategy works just as effectively with adults. Instead of saying, we need to launch this project next month, try, would you prefer we launch in early April or late April? Both options satisfy your need for an April launch while respecting their desire for input. This strategy is especially effective in negotiations and team settings. By presenting options like, should we try approach A, B, or C, you've already won because they're choosing between your preferred outcomes while feeling fully in control of their own decision-making process. Okay, once you've mastered questions and options, you're ready for the most sophisticated technique, one that makes your ideas virtually impossible to resist. This is the pinnacle of reverse persuasion, strategically sharing information that leads someone to your desired conclusion, then stepping back to let them connect the dots themselves. You want to start this by casually mentioning relevant facts. examples, or stories that support your position, but do so without explicitly stating your agenda. Then, give them time and space to process this information. When they later announce their breakthrough, which happens to align perfectly with what you wanted all along, resist the urge to take credit. Instead, compliment their insight and show genuine support for their idea. For example, rather than telling your boss you think the company should invest in a new software system, share an article about how a competitor implemented similar software with great results. A week later, when they suggest the company needs that software, simply respond with, "That's a really interesting idea. Tell me more about your thinking." Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Isn't this just manipulation? And that's the million-dollar question. And to answer it, we need to understand the psychology behind why these techniques work so effectively. And the truth might surprise you, because what looks like deception on the surface is actually rooted in something much more profound about human nature. These techniques, they're not just clever tactics. They're grounded in deep psychological principles about how humans make decisions. At its core, reverse persuasion works because it protects what people value most: their sense of autonomy and their self-direction. When someone feels pushed, a backfire effect kicks in, an automatic resistance to perceived threats of freedom. But when people feel they've reached a conclusion independently, something remarkable happens. They become invested into that idea at a much deeper level than if someone had simply told them what to do. Psychologists call this the IKEA effect. Just as we value furniture more when we have to assemble it ourselves, we value ideas more when we feel that we've created them on our own. It isn't just about feeling good, it translates to measurably stronger commitment. And research backs this up. People will work harder, persist longer, and defend more vigorously ideas that they believe that they've originated. Even more fascinating, our brains literally process information differently when we think that we've discovered something for ourselves. The reward circuits activate, dopamine flows, and we experience a sense of accomplishment that creates positive associations with that idea. And no, Machiavelli wasn't teaching people to be evil when he wrote about these influence principles. He was showing how to navigate a world where power dynamics are constantly at play. By understanding these psychological mechanisms, you can use them ethically. Use them to lead, to inspire, and even to protect yourself from other people's manipulation. The real skill is knowing when to guide and when to step back. This will create a perfect balance that represents others' autonomy while still achieving your objectives. What we've covered today isn't just a set of persuasion strategies. It's a fundamental shift in how you're going to approach human interaction. By working with psychological principles rather than against them, you're going to transform potential resistance into willing collaboration. Remember, reverse persuasion isn't about tricking people. It's all about creating an environment where the best ideas can flourish without ego getting in the way. As Machiavelli himself might say, true power isn't forcing your will on others. It's creating circumstances where others willingly choose what you would have them do. I would love to hear your thoughts on reverse persuasion. Have you experienced it in your own life, either as the influencer or the influenced? The most interesting story is going to get pinned in the comments section. And if you found these strategies valuable, make sure to subscribe for more psychological insights. The most powerful influence is the kind that no one notices.